بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending salutations upon His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we begin our lesson and carrying on our book Safinatun Naja. Alhamdulillah, we've got we've done quite a few chapters in the book of Tahara, the part of the book talking about Tahara, purity. And to summarize, the book started with part of Aqidah, talking about the pillars of Islam and Iman and the meaning of La ilaha illallah. And then we started the book of Tahara, where we talked about the signs of puberty, the conditions of using a stone, which there were 8, to clean yourself, the obligatory acts of wudu, what is niyyah, tartib, and how do you make niyyah, what is tartib, and their different definitions. Then we talked about, last lesson, different rulings pertaining to water. And we said water is of how many types? Who remembers? Who was here last lesson? 2 types. And which were they? Yeah, small amount of water and a large amount of water. How much did we say was considered a small amount of water?
180.
Yeah, so around 180 or less. So less than 180. Around less than 180. And anything above that, including 180 to 200, was considered a large amount of water. When did we say a small amount of water becomes impure? Who remembers? We said a small amount of water becomes impure when any najasa falls on it. Any najasa falls on that water, even if the color, the taste or the smell doesn't change. That's for a small amount of water. So what about a large amount of water? When does it become impure? No one? Okay, no problem. We'll go over it quickly. So we said water is of 2 types. A small amount, which is what is below qullatayn, which is around 180 liters. And that becomes impure if any najasa falls on it without, even if it doesn't change its color, taste or smell. A large amount of water becomes impure if, as a result of that najasa falling into it, either its color, taste or smell changes. So it's either its color changes, its taste changes, or its smell changes. So that's for a large amount of water. Then we went on to what makes ghusl wajib. How many did we mention? How many things did we mention that makes ghusl wajib? 6. And a few of them we split them into 2 categories. Some that were specific to women and some that were for both male and female. So those that were specific to women were hayd, postnatal bleeding, and giving birth. So the action of giving birth. All of those make ghusl wajib. And then those that are general are any discharge of semen, the entering of the male private part into the female private part, and death. So those are the 6 that we covered that make ghusl wajib. So then what are then the furud of ghusl? What are the obligatory acts of ghusl? And we mentioned there were only 2, which were, number 1, an-niyyah, so intending to do ghusl, and the second one, so for water to touch every part of the body. Good. And then we went on to the conditions of wudu, and we mentioned how many? 10. The first one is al-Islam. meaning the person has to be Muslim. Second, for them to reach the age of tamyiz, which is when they can eat and drink and clean themselves, or they know the difference between right and wrong, which we mentioned is around 7 years old. And to be free from hayd and nifas, so menstruation and postnatal bleeding. And to be free from anything that stops water reaching the skin. And also for nothing to be on your limbs that will change the water. For example, paint or ink. And to know that it is fard. And to not think that any fard act from the fard acts of wudu are sunnah. And then for the water to be pure. And to be able to purify as well. And for the time to enter. And for everything to be done one after the other. Those last two conditions, was it for everyone or specific to a certain type of person? Specific to who? The one that has an illness, that they are in a constant state of impurity. Okay, so for someone that's in the constant state of impurity, two things are extra conditions on them. Number one, for the time to enter and for there to be quick succession between the actions of wudu. And that took us to the end of our last lesson, and we begin our lesson today. فصل في نواقض الوضوء. This section talks about what breaks your wudu. And I'm aware that there are difference of opinions that you might have heard between the madahib on this issue here, on what breaks your wudu. But we will stick to what is in the matan and explain what's in here only. So first one, al-awwalu الخارج من أحد السبيلين من قبل أو دبر ريح أو غيره إلا المني. Anything الخارج, anything that leaves من أحد السبيلين, one of the two private parts, من قبل أو دبر, from the front or the back, ريح أو غيره, ريح أو غيره, like wind or anything else like it, إلا المني, except mani, semen. Okay. Al-khariju min ahad as-sabilayn, anything that leaves one of the private parts, meaning it's the same whether the thing that leaves is pure or impure, whether it's urine that's impure or wind which is pure in itself, but because it's left the private parts, it is something that would break your wudu. If the thing is dry or liquid, it's the same. There's no difference. We say anything that leaves any of the private parts will break your wudu from the front or the back, whether that's blood, wind, urine, stool, even in certain cases worms, all of this stuff. If any of this leaves, then that breaks your wudu, illa al-mani, except semen. We say that semen, it doesn't break your wudu, but we've studied already that it makes what wajib? It makes ghusl wajib. So in itself, it doesn't break the wudu, but you would have to do ghusl. Clear? الثاني زوال العقل بنوم أو غيره إلا النوم قاعد ممكن مقعدته من الأرض. The loss of consciousness. To lose consciousness, whether that's by sleeping بنوم أو غيره, or other than it. So we can think of examples where you lose consciousness for a reason other than sleep. Yeah. Yeah, so to be knocked out, for example, to faint, to go into a coma, to lose your mind if you're drunk, for example, all of these will break your wudu. And then we have another exception. So we have the exception, إن النوم قاعد ممكن مقعدته من الأرض, except the sleep where your backside is firmly upon the floor. Okay, except that sleep where your backside is firmly upon the floor. Why? Because whilst you're sleeping, it's difficult for any wind to go out. Do you understand? So when you're sitting firmly, like I'm sat now, if I was sat on the floor like this and I was sleeping and I wake up, I don't need to make wudu if I want to pray. Okay, because of the position that I was sat in. But the condition is that it has to be firmly upon the floor. So if I slept in this position and I woke up in a position, maybe I was lying down, would my wudu have broken? I'll repeat the question. We said that any type of losing consciousness, like sleep, breaks the wudu. And we made an exception for the sleep where you're sat firmly upon the floor. For example, how you're sitting. Okay? If I fell asleep in that position, but I woke up lying down, does my wudu break? Yes. So we say that you have to have slept and woke up in that position. Okay? Is that clear? الثالث التقاء بشرتي رجل وامرأة كبيرين أجنبيين من غير حائل. The third breaker of wudu is the meeting of two skins. رجل وامرأة, man and woman. So what do we exclude from this if it's not skin to skin? Meaning if you touch a woman's hair or nails or teeth, these things don't count. If your skin touches any one of those things, your wudu will not break. Okay? And it has to be between man and woman that are kabirain. They are both of age. So far, we've studied two things to do with age. The first one is someone that's considered baligh, to have reached the age of puberty. And we said that has how many signs? The signs of puberty were? 3, right? 3. And from one of them was for them to reach 15 lunar years. Okay? Then we studied from the conditions of wudu is for someone to have reached the age of tamyiz, which means that they can differentiate between right and wrong, or that they can eat by themselves or drink by themselves or clean themselves. Okay? Now we have the third point related to age, that they have to both be kabirain, that they have reached the age called hadd al-shahwa. They have reached the limit where now they find the opposite gender attractive. Okay? So it could be a situation where they haven't reached puberty yet, meaning they haven't reached 15 lunar years, or they haven't had a wet dream yet, or they haven't had their first period, but they have reached this limit called hadd al-shahwa. They now find the opposite gender attractive. If two people, man and woman, have skin to skin contact, okay, and they both have reached that age, then their wudu is broken. Clear? Any questions on that? Yeah. We'll come to that. So far from what we've taken so far, that's what we know, that if two people that have reached that age make skin to skin contact, their wudu is broken. Then the Shaykh says ajnabiyain. Ajnabi, is it someone that's not from the same country as you? Say for example, you're Somali, if you touch someone that's Bengali, does your wudu break? No, it doesn't mean that. It means someone that you are allowed to marry. It means someone that is not your mahram. Okay? And we say that there are 18 different people that can be your mahram. 18 different people that can be your mahram. Anyone you touch without a barrier between you, and it's skin to skin contact, outside of these 18 breaks your wudu. Okay? So we very quickly go through all of them. These 18 split into 3 categories. These 18 split into how many categories? 3. The first is through blood. Through blood, you have 7 people that are considered your mahram, that if you touch them, you don't have to do wudu. Then you have 7 through breastfeeding. Okay? And then 4 through marriage. So how much is that altogether? 7 plus 7 plus 4 is? How much? 18, correct. So the 7 through blood is your mum. Obviously this is for a man, and you would do the opposite for a woman. So when we say mum, you would say their dad. And when you say daughter, you would say their son. Okay? So your mum, your daughter, your sister, your maternal auntie, so your mum's sister, your paternal auntie, so your dad's sister, your niece from your brother, so your brother's daughter, and your niece from your sister, so your sister's daughter. Those 7 are through blood. Who can repeat that? No one. I'll say it one more time. Your mum, your daughter, your sister, your maternal auntie, your paternal auntie, your niece from your brother, and your niece from your sister. Anyone can repeat it?
Mum, daughter, sister, paternal auntie, maternal auntie, niece.
Your niece from?
Your mum.
Your brother.
Oh, from your brother.
So your brother's daughter.
And
your sister's daughter as well. Okay? Anyone else? So the 7 we just mentioned?
Yeah, you said mum, dad.
So your mum?
Yeah.
So this is for a man. Yeah, your mum, your daughter, your brother's daughter, your sister's daughter. You're missing? How many? Yeah, your maternal and paternal auntie. And you're missing? Your sister as well. So your mum, your daughter, your sister, maternal and paternal aunties, your niece from your brother, and your niece from your sister. Clear, yeah? The ones for breastfeeding, the 7 for breastfeeding are exactly the same. So it's your breastfed mum, same with daughter, sister, all of this is the same 7. Okay, so now we have how many? 14. So what's left? The 4 from marriage. And we say that these 4 are your mother-in-law, so your wife's mum, your daughter-in-law, so who's that to you? Your daughter-in-law.
wife's daughter.
Your wife's daughter?
Oh.
No. Your brother's daughter, no. Your daughter-in-law, who is that to you?
Your son's wife.
Your son's wife. Your son's wife, well done. Then your stepmother, who's that to you?
Your dad's wife.
Your dad's wife, that's not your mum, obviously. Yeah? So if he married someone else, clear? And then your stepdaughter, who's that to you? Your wife's daughter, that's obviously not your daughter. These become mahram to you. Some of them have conditions, we won't go into them, but also for breastfeeding there's conditions. It's not just if someone has breastfed you once, that becomes your mahram, no. Okay? There's conditions and a certain age and a number of times, which we won't go into today. Clear, yeah? So what do we say? If we go back, التقاء بشرتي رجل وامرأة كبيرين أجنبيين من غير حائل, the meeting of 2 skins of a man and woman that have reached the age where they find the opposite gender attractive, أجنبيين, that are not from the 18 we've mentioned, من غير حائل, without a barrier. So if one person is wearing gloves and one person isn't, and they shake hands, is the wudu broken? No. Why? Because there's a barrier. We're not talking about halal and haram. We're talking about, is your wudu broken? Clear? So we've gone through those 3. The first one, anything that leaves the private parts, except many. The second one, to lose consciousness, except the sleep where you're sat firmly on the floor. The third one, the meeting of 2 skins of a man and woman that are of age, that are not mahram to each other, without a barrier. Clear, yeah? الرابع مسح قبل آدمي أو حلقة دبره ببطن الراحة أو بطون الأصابع. To touch the front private part of a human, whether that's yourself or anyone else. أو حلقة دبره ببطن الراحة, or the back private part, the inside of the back private part, meaning what you can't see when you're standing up. Okay? ببطن الراحة, with the inside of your palms. So this part here, with the inside of your palms. أو بطون الأصابع, or the inside of your fingers as well. So all this as well. So basically, if I do this, anything I can't see, if I touch any human private part with this, then my wudu is broken. Whether that's myself or someone else. And is that clear? That was pretty simple. So those 4 things are the things that break your wudu. Who can quickly give us a summary of the 4 things that break your wudu? Someone at the back. Yeah.
Sleeping, so losing consciousness, accepting the back, so that's fine. Kneeling on 2 skins.
Yeah.
Anything that comes out of the private part, except when.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one is touching the private part with the inside of the palm.
Good, good. MashaAllah, well done. Now, فصل فيما يحرم على المحدث. What is haram for the person that is in the state of impurity? من انتقض وضوءه حرم عليه أربعة أشياء. Whoever has lost their wudu, whoever broke their wudu, حرم عليه أربعة أشياء. There's haram upon them 4 things. 4 things are haram on the person that has lost their wudu. الصلاة والطواف ومس المصحف وحمله. Salah, they can't pray without wudu. Number 1, they can't pray without wudu. والطواف, and to make tawaf, whether that is a tawaf that is fard or sunnah, they can't make tawaf without wudu. ومس المصحف, and to touch the mushaf. To touch the mushaf is haram for the person that doesn't have wudu. And it's important to mention what is considered a mushaf is something where the Quran, the words of the Quran, make up the majority of the writing. So for example, books of tafsir, or even the book maybe some explanations of the book we're studying today, they might have ayat of the Quran in there, but you have to look at what's more. Is it more Quran or more explanation? If it is more ayat of the Quran, then it is haram to touch that without wudu. Allahu a'lam. وَحَمْلُهُ, and to carry it. To carry, meaning to carry the mushaf. It's haram for you to carry the mushaf without wudu. Question now comes, if it's in a bag and I'm on my way here and I lose my wudu, is it haram for me to carry that bag? We say that if you intend only by carrying that bag to carry the mushaf, then it's haram to carry that bag. If it's the only thing in there is mushaf. But for example, if you have other books, maybe you have a laptop in there, you have water bottles, you have other things in there, and the mushaf is also in there, we say it's not haram to carry that bag. Wallahu a'lam. And we'll end on this. وَيَحْرُمُ عَلَى الْجُنُبِ سِتَّةُ أَشْيَاء. And for the person that is in major impurity, it's haram for them 6 things. 6 things are haram upon them. So this is the major sexual impurity, and the same first 4 things that were haram for the person that didn't have wudu is haram for the person that doesn't have ghusl. Okay? The first 4, as-salatu wa tawaf wa mas'u al-mushaf wa hamluhu, those 4 things are haram for both. And the 2 extra we add is wal-lubuthu fil masjid, to stay in the masjid. To stay in the masjid is haram for the person that has major impurity. We say that passing through the masjid is fine. So if there's a door and they can go through the masjid and there's another door they exit, rather than having to go all the way around the masjid, then that is fine. And then وَقِرَاءَةُ الْقُرْآنِ, for them to read Quran by intending by it that they're actually reading Quran. So stuff like adhkar in the morning and evening, if you are in a state of major impurity, you're still allowed to do, even though it has ayat in there. Wallahu a'lam. وَيَحْرُمُ بِالْحَيْضِ عَشْرَةُ أَشْيَاء. And what's haram for the one that's in hayd, 10 things. So the 6 we mentioned, as-salatu wa tawaf wa mas'u al-mushaf wa hamluhu wa al-lubuthu fil masjid wa qira'atu al-Qur'an, are all haram on the person that is on, the woman that's on her period. And we add as-sawmu, she can't fast. She's not allowed to fast. Wa-talaq, and she's not allowed to be divorced. Wal-mururu fil masjid in khafat talwithu. Wal-mururu fil masjid in khafat talwitha. If she's not allowed to pass through the masjid if she fears that her blood will go and make the masjid dirty. And the last point, وَالِاسْتِمْتَاعُ بِمَا بَيْنَ السُّرَّةِ وَالرُّكْبَةِ, and to enjoy between what's between the navel and the knees. So those extra things are haram for the person that is, the woman that is on her period, and the ahkam, the rulings for the person that's on their period and the person that is in nifas are the same. So these 10 things are also haram upon the person that is in the state of nifas. Any questions? No? Okay, we'll stop there inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.